Hey everyone, this is Wendy with VSI. I am back in Liberia. We just finished our missionary training last week. We had Esther and Joel here visiting with us as well. We had a wonderful time. We learned so much about missions, mostly to separate culture from the message. If they're mixed, then if they reject your culture, they reject your message. And that was very, very important for us to learn, as well as some other strategies and just learning the stages of cultural shock, which was very interesting to learn. But beyond that, what we have done is we spoke at that missionary training. Everybody got excited to come and learn at VSI, at our training center, our agricultural program, and all the other lessons that we have. We had Youth with a Mission excited to get their students to come through at least 2 weeks of training. And we met an amazing person, Pastor Mark. He's been pastoring for 10 years. He's got a congregation of like 80 some people. And he's actually been coaching like 400 people all across Liberia on how to keep the feast days. And so we were like-minded in so many ways. We were able to stay at their home for the weekend. Now we have family and friends. We're brethren, our housing brethren, a place to stay when we're in Monrovia. And many of their people are also going to be coming through our training. And we have so many now that we're finding across Liberia. This will be our first Sukkot this fall, Feast of Tabernacles, where our 300 acres can house a big Sukkot celebration. So we're so excited about that. But we are busy getting ready for training in just a few weeks. I want you just to quickly see a little bit of a garden tour. Since you haven't been here, why don't you come along and get a little bit of a garden tour, and I'll kind of show you what we have going on here as we are getting ready for our trainings in just a few weeks. I started at the well, but we've seen that before. But there's something really special about meeting at the well. I don't know what it is or where it comes from. But over here, this section of the training center, because every area is trying to teach a little different method of how you can grow food. Some is going to be more applicable in one person's area, and in other areas not so much, right? But this is a global curriculum, so we're showing the different methods that can be done throughout the world. So this section here is our double dug beds, meaning all of these 20-foot garden beds have been hand turned down to 2 feet. This is very helpful in clay-packed soil. It's not a good idea in Florida sand soil because that already drains really fast. But in this, where it's very compacted, it's a really good way to gently do it without disturbing those fungal networks underneath like a rototiller would do. So that's the section in here. Oh, and then over here, we can look at this. This is our compost production area. And let me tell you, if I ever come to visit your garden, that's the first thing I look for is, are you making compost? That is so important. You have to know how to create fertilizer for your garden and how to, essentially, this could be creating soil as well, even though it's not really soil, it's more like a probiotic. It inoculates and brings species, soil biology into our garden. But you can see we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bins. You know, and if we want to turn them, we can just turn one into the next all the way through. But in this hot tropics, it doesn't take long, and they've reduced down, and even right now, all of these are ready just to be sifted and to start again. But we do have a stick in the middle. If you wonder what this stick is for, it's a temperature gauge that lets us know if it's actively composting right now. So we can remove the stick, put our hand on it, and if it's really hot, it's actively composting. It's, you know, destroying bacteria that needs to be destroyed, maybe some weed seeds. But if the stick is cool, then we can turn the pile, water the pile, add an activator, and get it going again. So that's our compost production. So let's head over this way. We'll go for a walk, and just come walking with me. Let's go on a tour. It's a lot less money than flying here. We have all the tropical foods. Sweet potatoes are very popular. But over here, this is a water diversion ditch. So what happens here, this is a monsoon climate. The water comes and it just pours and runs everywhere, and it wants to run right past your garden and on down to the river and out to the ocean. So we have to tell the water, come into our garden area. So these are ditches that were dug out. Stacy helped us with this a couple years ago. But we dig the water out And as the water comes in this direction, it will start seeping into the soil underneath. So everybody knows that underneath we have a groundwater somewhere, the water table underneath. But if the water is not filling back up into your water table and it's bypassing it and going to the river, then your groundwater is going to get lower and lower and lower, where the roots of your plants are really going to struggle to access that water. And so by bringing the water in, we're getting to wick into the bed, raise the water table slowly. It takes about 3 years before you really see the difference in your garden, but it's worth it and it makes a difference. Look, if you just kind of span out across the garden, you can see green, and we are in the dry season. It's just now beginning to rain and it is still very, very green. So you can see it's making a difference. I think I'm gonna come in here, take a little diversion to show you. This is a method of irrigation that actually dates back to the ancient Shemites, which would be the descendants of Shem. They created clay terracotta pots, which today are called oyas, to store water at the root level so the water's not evaporating everywhere and the plants can take exactly what they want. Well, we just did it with a 2-foot section of bamboo, and it's solid on the bottom. We had tapped little tiny holes all around the pipe so it can slowly leak the water, but the roots and the fungal networks can actually go in and extract what they want. And when they can take what they want, they're going to be healthier. So here in the dry season, we have tomatoes growing, which is usually not common in the dry season. So you can see here's a tomato here. Something you wouldn't really see growing in the dry season. So it's very important to areas like Kenya that were really struggling this year, and 37 out of 47 counties didn't have food and had to have it brought into their country if they would have only had the knowledge of deep pipe irrigation. They have bamboo. It's just a matter of a lack of knowledge. So how will they know if we're not sent and we don't go? Right? So here we have another diversion ditch. Water again coming in. But this time it's going into a much bigger system. This is a berm and a swale. So when the rains start coming, this is gonna fill in and we're gonna have all kinds of water just kind of stored in the system to wick into all of these beds and just to really help hydrate this soil and get it rebuilt. And along the berm, it's kind of dry right now. Again, we are in the dry season, but what we're actively working on now is planting green manure cover crops. And as we get those to cover all of this soil, it's gonna really take this soil to the next level again. Lots of living roots in the soil, and green manure cover crops provide nitrogen. So it's like giving fertilizer to that whole thing. But one thing I want you to notice is these trees that are along the swale. If you see them, those were planted in 2023, November of 2023. So this coming year, they will complete 3 years and they'll be in their 4th year. And so scripture says that not to eat the fruit until the 5th year. So when you get to the 4th year, it says that year, the fruit all belongs to Yah. It all belongs to Yahweh, to our Abba Father. And so this November, we start the 4th year of all of these fruit trees, which isn't amazing how tall they are in just that short amount of time. But we can't wait, because in the 4th year, we're giving all of it to the widows and the orphans during that year. And the single moms. Yeah. And then the next year, we can enjoy that beautiful fruit. It's just awesome. So now if we keep going, you might want to notice this cute little pineapple growing up here. Isn't that beautiful? Coming along. And all of our bananas. So again, we're still in our double dug bed garden. We have 40 beds in our double dug bed garden. So it's a pretty big system. I think we can go down here through the middle. Another diversion ditch bringing water in there as well. Pumpkins coming, sweet potatoes that look like they're about ready. this is just, instead of shade cloth, we can just make a homemade solution to have filtered light for young and tender plants in the garden bed. And again, you'll see we have our deep pipes in there. Not all the garden beds have those deep pipes for irrigation, and that's because every time a group of students come through, it's one of the practicals is for them to actually make these deep pipes and put them in a garden bed. So every time we teach people and we have workshops here, we're getting more into every single bed. So now we're kind of moving into an agroforestry area. So an agroforestry is a combination of trees and annuals, and where it's kind of where we're starting to combine the two in our gardening efforts. So I'll come around here. This cassava is starting to fall over. This is a row of cassava. They'll all be harvested for the roots after just 9 months. So we have a few heads of cabbage coming up there, I see. But let's see, this is okay, so this was where we had woody plants growing around annual beds, and that was kind of an early introduction to syntropics. It was there's alley cropping and agroforestry concepts that we're starting to develop, but ultimately we're going to work our way towards syntropic, which is more of the same, but it has green manure cover crops growing in between. So let's keep coming along. This is Malabar spinach growing here. Malabar spinach, and this is just such a nice homemade trellis that they've made over this. It still allows for a lot of light coming through, but you don't need to buy anything. You know, everything we have, we can use what's available and make it work. Looking down that row there, you can see lots of homemade trellises coming along, lots more of these jackfruit trees. We have breadfruit trees coming as well. All of them provide calories. The jackfruit, the seeds can actually be dried and ground into flour. Breadfruit is eaten as bread. It's a wonderful tree in the tropics for your daily bread, which is just amazing. Eating from trees just gives you so much food. So, this section here is an Edo garden. It's a calorie crop system. And this Edos is kind of like a potato in the tropics. In Spanish-speaking countries, it's called malenga, but it cooks up like a potato. But this needs to be intercropped with green manure cover crops. In other words, we need to plant beans to grow in between all of this. And so we're working on it. We just have only so many bean seeds. So we have to grow it out, and then we harvest those seeds and plant again. So we need just a few more planting cycles, and we'll have all the soil covered with green manure cover crops. So it's coming. It's on its way. And another calorie crop. So look at all the food we have around us. Beyond this, you can't really see it, but there's a bunch of pineapples that have growing, bananas in the backdrop. Over here we have a whole banana farm. And these are just things that the guys have just gotten started growing. But now we're going to come along and we're going to say, okay, but now instead of this section and that section, how do we intertwine it to get more of a syntropic system and more diversity? And so it's coming. Small by small, we're getting this put together. Now if we come over here, let's come all around. This actually goes and it goes and it goes. So there's just lots and lots of food. There's no excuse to be buying all your food. You know, the biggest challenge that we actually have is for all of us to get to the place of saying, will I eat what I grow? You know, it's so tempting to go to the store for your favorites and what you're used to eating, but we have food growing, and it's a character lesson as we work on eating what we're able to grow, because that's the best we can eat. All right, now I'm in a section of the garden where we have perennial peppers. And that's really cool. Most people might not know you can grow peppers as a perennial. So all of these are giving us peppers all the time. Just little peppers, but let me tell you, they may be small, but they can bring it. They have plenty of heat. And you know, within all of this, in the backdrop, we have larger emergent trees. We have mango and avocado and cocoa and coconut palm and cocoa and even palm oil, red palm oil. So there's actually lots of different other trees growing around within the mix. But come along and let me show you a few more gardening methods. Now we're on the other side of the garden where the nursery's at. I just want to point out we do have a couple cisterns that we've dug out, and those are just places to store water again that can be absorbed into our entire system. And then this is our nursery. We're getting platforms started as we start our tree nurseries and our seedling nurseries all over there. And we're not just going to have it for our own production here on campus, but we're also starting a VSI seed and nursery, and that'll be a local resource for people in the local area to come and get seeds, come and get trees, come and get plants, and that helps to fund what's going on at VSI, so it's more self-sufficient itself rather than being reliant upon donations. The other thing we're starting as well is VSI Market, and that will sell produce, bakery items from the mud oven, and other services such as helping to separate their rice from the bran and things like that for them. So if we can come along this way, and these are outside bathhouses as well as outside toilet amenities. But this method of gardening here is called keyhole gardens. And a keyhole in the middle of it, so it's in the shape of a keyhole. So it has that opening in the middle to go into, and then in the middle is a compost bin. And so this is a really nice solution for an urban gardener. You know, agroforestry and centropics is if you have some space. If you don't have space, a keyhole is really nice. You can actually build this up waist high if you want, and do it with brick, and can be very eye appealing for an urban garden. But then in the middle is your compost bin, so you're constantly putting your scraps and your browns, your leaves and stuff in there, and then the worms come in to feed, and then they'll travel back out throughout the garden because they also have a relationship with the roots of your plants. And so they travel around fertilizing the garden, aerating the garden for you, and so it becomes a really nice workable option for an inner city type garden. So this whole section, we have 5 keyholes going around. In the middle is going to eventually be our demonstration for rainwater collection, and we want to do rainwater collecting off of the roof of our bathhouse and pipe it in so we can have an outdoor shower here, but it's not going to be so open. We'll actually take like palm fronds and weave them together, and we'll make like this whole wall or circle around the outdoor shower. And so that's something that's still yet being developed. And you can't see it really in there, but we have a stream right there. Not sure how well you can see it, but we do have water. Long term, we're planning to make actually a fish pond. I've seen it in Kenya where they line it with clay on the bottom to make a fishing pond, and then we can stock it with tilapia or what we want to have for fish. That river tends to have a lot of catfish, but we do have water right there, which is nice. And then what else do we have to show you at the VSI campus? Let's take a look. So here we have our first banana circle that Dave Merrill has taught them how to make. It's got a huge compost bin in the middle, and then we have our bananas around it. And they have said they've never seen cassava do this well, especially next to bananas, because they're usually fighting for the nutrients. But here there's plenty, and you can see the difference in how healthy these are growing up compared to the other ones that are just kind of by themselves and just kind of planted. So this is a new method for us to be teaching on our banana production for the students that come. Then we also have little sacks there where we're kind of starting trees and filtered light to get a nursery going. We have other trees starting over there. That's our big mango tree. And in this little barn here, we still have to fix it up, but we have a rice mill And that's part of VSI Market, where people come and they can get produce and stuff, but they also can come and have their rice separated for them. They don't have time to do the pounding and the winnowing and all of that. We have that as a service to help bring income, so that this is a self-sustaining program that we have here. We also demonstrate sack gardens, and this is an urban option again, where if you don't have anywhere to grow food, you can at least grow them in sacks. So basically this is a method of raised bed gardening, but this can go all around the property on a porch. It doesn't even have to have soil on the ground, and you can grow food. So we also demonstrate that one too. Well, it may look like a small thing, but this is a Starlink satellite dish. So we're getting it all set up, and hopefully soon we will have much better reception for getting the technical things done that we need to finish here at the training center. And so I can function with the rest of the world.
Woo! Hi-ya!
Woo!
Hi-ya! Hi-ya!
Haha, look at that!
Hi-ya!
We are learning there was a much better way to make a mud oven. So the experts, the local experts, are coming over to teach us how to do it correctly. Hi-ya! Anyway, hope you enjoyed the tour of the garden, and I'll be sending and sharing all of the updates as we work to get everything finished. The cold storage hut we're still building, we're redoing the mud oven, lots of changes over the next few weeks as we get ready to teach our classes starting in April. Thank you again for all of your prayer and support. Miss you all. Take care. Bye.